alternative method, which Matt does.
I'm live.
What's that? I might take it off.
Is it noon?
Can't tell.
All right, it is noon Eastern Standard Time. We are currently in Detroit, Michigan at the directly across 23rd Relay America Tour. Waiting on one individual that sucks to be in. We're going to do an update of what we did couple of times prior to this previous Reawakened, which is an update on the January civil hostage situation, as well as the investigations that are ongoing with or without a White House that is compliant, with or without a Congress that's compliant, with or without a legacy media that's going to be doing their jobs. That is why we're here, is to basically express to the independent media new woke slimes, raw sewage, or whether it be raw in the digital print space. Okay? So for yourselves, if you want, applause. I will. I don't know, like 30 people with their separate respective platforms. So this is what I want to get into. I want to keep this under 30 minutes. First thing I want to talk about is a little recap of the January 6th investigation, how that has impacted family members of the now approaching 1,400 regime, and then we need to do to get back on based on constitutional construct going down into this. And that's first of all, January 6th. I've done many of the podcasts on it. You can go to my Rumble channel. I've got an overview for those that may be listening to this for the first time. January 6th was a reaction to a theory that I had presented to Kevin McCarthy and Mike Pence's chief of staff, Mark Ford, that Nancy Pelosi caught wind of. And when she caught wind of it, she then, the way that I can stop this the legal mission, authorities, and the entire framework of what the U.S. Capitol Police can do, within which jurisdiction they can do, and how they can run that. Section 1967 talks about physical jurisdiction, and the second section is 1979 that talks about the court gets to release security to the U.S. Capitol Police, meaning the CCTV, the sworn testimony that is then provided by U.S. Capitol Police officers. So, in the collective, the Fedsurrection that people call Fedsurrection, yes, it was supported by the DOJ's FBI. Yes, it was supported by, and he can go into much more detail on the DHS, CBP, HSI components to it. He being Trennis Evans. That framework. Look at those two sections. And I highly recommend, urge every January 6th defendant, journalist, family member, lawyer, anyone interested in exposing that, whether it's members of Congress such as Clay Higgins, Thomas Massey with the fight bomb and Ray Epps investigation. Clay with the FBI buses. Loudermilk was carrying really the only subcommittee entity within our government right now that is inching their way towards the truth about January 6th to prove what I'm saying is Barry Loudermilk, congressman from Georgia. But he's up against problems in trying to get this information out because above him on the committee sits Paul Ryan's hand-picked chairman for that committee, Brian Stile, who replaced Paul Ryan as a member of Congress from Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. So, I don't want to get too much detail on how we come around this. I just want people to understand that every single J6 defendant, family member, January 6th defendant, family member, and the ecosystem surrounding that, you are and we are being weaponized by the same individuals that went after General Flynn in 2016, that then created the censorship industrial complex in the 2018 and beyond time frame that still exists on the fake books, on the commie tubes, and all these other Insta-garbage platforms. And they are continuing this path of destruction of our constitutional order. And as it relates to January 6th, the guy that ran, 3 people you need to know. The guy that ran that cover-up committee of the Fed insurrection was the Mike Pence's beloved Liz Cheney's handpicked and the Nancy Pelosi's beloved Benny Thompson handpicked staff director to cover up the January 6th insurrection led by the Capitol Police Board and the leadership. Who was that? David Buckley, one of the 51 spies alive that covered for the Biden criminal syndicate laptop.
Well, I can't let you get off of Benny Thompson without talking about Benny. Benny Thompson was a member of Republic of New Africa. As a member of Republic of New Africa, a known domestic violent extremist racist group. Get that right. Known domestic violent extremist racist group that was on watch list by the FBI as early as the early 2000s. Benny Thompson was a member of that and was still promoting candidates there openly as late as 2012. So interestingly enough, with this individual that had this Republic, I want you guys to look into that. Go look up what the Republic of New Africa stood for, what their ideology was.
Betty Thompson, congressman from Mississippi, who chaired the Homeland Security Committee, and then the January 6th cover-up committee. It should be, the full title of that committee should be called this: Mike Pence's beloved Liz Cheney and Nancy Pelosi's beloved Benny Thompson's January 6th cover-up committee. That's right, cover-up committee. So number 1, David Buckley. Number 2 is the House Sergeant at Arms at the time, Paul Irving, retired in the Tampa area somewhere. He was the Sergeant at Arms for John Boehner, Paul Ryan, and Nancy Pelosi. If there's one person that has dirt on all 3 of those individuals, it is Paul Irving. Okay? And then the last person is the General Counsel at the U.S. Capitol Police, Thomas Tobias. Thomas Aquinas Tobias, known as Tad or Tadpole Tobias. He's the guy that uses the Title II U.S. Code Chapter 29 and those sections and beyond to then, on behalf of the cabal, decide who they're going to target via their target list. And then he's working with that David Buckley to then decide who to question during that January 6th cover-up committee's work to then create your criminal referrals of the 1,400 people.
How to question. Tell about the coaching back.
So, this is how it probably worked. Pelosi says, hey, why don't you go ahead and criminalize the following list of people? Work with Yogananda Pittman, who had an Intel Interagency Coordination Division, who we just elevated to be the Chief of Capitol Police for a certain period of time. And then while Jamie Raskin is running the impeachment folks to cover up for the Fed insurrection, I want you to concurrently after that create the Jason's Fed insurrection cover-up committee and then start to create your Patriot lists. So my idea of the deep state target list It's exactly what they did to us. But what they did to us is to go after those First Amendment election justice rally attendees, both outside and inside the Capitol. We are going after those that clearly violated treason laws, seditious conspiracy, spying, first through the 10th Amendment, different parts of the entire Constitution, the base articles and articles, right? So let me kind of close with this for the intro. You need to know who is coming after us. It's not a deep state. When it comes to January 6th, it is a specific set of core individuals. David Buckley, not only the ones that we know that were on the committee, these are the worker bees that people don't know. David Buckley, the staff director. Paul Irving, the House Sergeant at Arms, and Tad Tobias, the General Counsel, who is still there to this day, weaponizing and working with the DOJ as he works and develops doctored, manipulated CCTV footage and doctored, manipulated, coerced, false testimony of U.S. Capitol Police officers, and then sent over to the DOJ, so they use that doctored evidence to criminalize against Sarah's husband. And what does that do? What is the impact of that? The floor is yours.
It's an honor to stand up here with Curtis and I think this is so important because it's not talked about a lot on the main stage. I'm not going to take long. I'm an advocate for January 6th defendants and their families. There's almost 1,500 of them, and they're still going after them every single day. They're still doing FBI raids. They're still flashbanging people's houses, pre-dawn raids. It's not stopping, and it's not stopping because we continue to allow it to happen. We, the people, allow Yogananda Pittman to sit in San Diego or San Francisco here in Berkeley, right? Because there's not enough people putting pressure. So Ivan, we talked about this earlier, he's going to talk about what we can do as individuals. But I want to tell you, so many people come up to us and they feel so sorry for us. Oh, I was there on January 6th. Well, what are you doing? If you were there on January 6th, what are you doing today to help those 1,500 people that the federal government went after? Faith and fear cannot coexist. So you better start doing something because they are continuing to go after Americans. But it doesn't matter if Donald Trump gets back in and these people are left smart. It doesn't matter what Ivan says in the future, then it doesn't have to be about the White House or the people in government, about we the people doing it. 3.5 years of these people's lives are gone. They've lost their homes, they've lost their friends, they've lost their family members. There is no amount of time and no amount of money that's going to get that back for these individuals. Vindication is great, but that's where we step in as advocates.
Retribution is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. After all of that is done and justice is truly served, these individuals have lived in a box for 3 years. They've been told when they can eat, when they can shower, when they can talk to their family. They've been told when they can see their family, and most of them didn't see their families for 2 years. 2 years of their children's life went by, and they couldn't lay eyes on them. Grandkids were born, grandparents were lost, parents were lost. There is nothing that vindication is going to do to get that back. But we, the people, can walk beside them when they get out, because this journey is far from over. It's far from over when they walk out of those prison doors. They need help becoming contributing members of society. My husband's a law enforcement officer. If he's not vindicated, he's never going back into that career field. And there's many people that are like that. Veterans, white-collar workers, blue-collar workers, so many people out there like that. And that's where Ivan is going to step in and say, this is what you can do now. But people like Trinus and I that run organizations for January 6th defendants, that's where we come in. And we say, this is how you can help. Because re-entry is going to be a big problem for the 220 individuals that are still locked up today.
And then, so now we're going to thank you, Sarah. Now we're going to talk about some of the things that can be done to start to create, to off-gas the pressure that these belligerent, illegitimate actors have applied to family members and defendants, and how we turn the tide from defense to stalemate to then offense, so that they go ahead and face the eye for an eye methodology that I prefer, according to Leviticus. So one method is what Trinus actually going to break some news here today on what he's working on. Trent, what do you got going on for pushback?
Before I go into pushback, I think they might clean up the video, but you guys I've got enough likes. We're good, right? So anyway, the reality is, okay, now triple, like triple vax, triple max, right? Listen, you guys heard incredible passion. So just hurt husband. I mean, seriously, raise your hand if you don't have a loved one, somebody in your life you care about, a mother, a father, a son, a child, somebody, and that's your person, your rock, your number one. Whoever that person is, you imagine they're going through this for 3.5 years. It's unjust, it's unfair, it's wrong, it's criminal, and it's so despicable. It is an absolute stain on our country, and we the people have to own this, because not enough of whoever's out there listening have become active enough to get something done, push back. They go, oh shucks, well don't worry, Trump's gonna get in soon. Or oh don't worry, God's got him, it's in God's plan. I'm gonna tell you this, screw that. God expects that you get involved. That doesn't mean you get to lean on a shovel and pray for a hole. So don't get me about prayer warrioring if you're not taking action, because God said it takes action as much as it takes prayer. So don't give me just that nonsense of don't worry, I'm praying for you. You're praying for 1,500 Americans. 78% of the people that were initially detained pre-trial with no bail were law enforcement, like Colton McAfee, and veterans of these United States. These people paid the ultimate price in some cases, or put their life on the line for you. They were willing to put their life on the line for you, and you can't give something back to what we're doing? Sarah, you may get rich on January 6th. Neither am I, don't get paid. I've done this for 3 years straight for other people. Sarah knows when we got those videos together, we would have, hallelujah, we're going to be able to, we got the audio, we got everything together. They told, in Ronald's case, they told him, audio and video. Gary sends it to me, we get it downloaded, send it to Sarah, it's inadmissible. What? The audio exonerates her husband, but it's inadmissible from the body cam? These are the kind of atrocities I'm talking about. This is an example of using Sarah. Because Sarah and I've known Sarah since 20
The reason why it's inadmissible, because it runs counter to the false testimony that was already coerced and compelled from those U.S. Capitol police officers or MPD officers before it was sent to the DOJ for prosecution.
Well, and then what if they hid behind the scenes? There's so much more. Like Ivan and I said, we'll get down here and do some stuff with you guys. The counterterrorism unit, the HSI, Homeland Security guys, when we broke that in the Proud Boys case, I want you guys to remember something. A lot of people never got this because I was head down in trial and I wasn't coming to events and plays events for a while. We were head down on that. And I want you to remember this. We exposed over 40 agents that were previously undisclosed to defense counsel. Okay? That was 13 MPD, 8 officers from the Special Narcotics Unit. And some of you have seen the video of them urging people to go, 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 get in there, go. And then what about the other people? Well, that's what they sealed under national security. Judge Kelly sealed them. And it's far worse than that. 13,955 lines of communication came out. An FBI agent failed to strut something. We got access to that. We read it. After the syntax and line breaks and removals, we got 6,000 plus usable lines of communication. And we saw 5 of us. We saw who was talking at NSA. And we saw what level this occurred at. And we started talking about it in the media. One piece of it got out, and then the judge immediately shut it down and ordered anyone in possession of it in violation of national security. The following day, Laura Logan reported on this. I dropped the story with her. She reported on it, and that was it. It was done. And no one's ever touched it again. Thank God some of us have photographic memories and I can regurgitate those. So, anyway, I'm going to go back to this. So here we go. What can you do, right? Besides, okay, I don't want to know. I'm tired of throwing the remote at the TV. I'm tired of kicking the refrigerator and saying this is crap. Right? I'm tired of getting mad outside cussing at the moon. There is something you can do. You can get engaged. You can get involved. Get behind these organizations and people that are doing something. Or, what would be even better? You could start filing cases. Gosh, I don't know how to file cases. How many of you guys know my legal work and what I do? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to pretend to be a lawyer. But I'm going to tell you about these legal work. I was the person in Colorado with the the Supreme Court. But this team of people that I surround we investigated people in the church palace and other great that there's more very I dug up retired attorneys, disbarred attorneys, and accident. Now, I didn't know what to do. Now a new Supreme Court filing against what happened to Donald Trump in New York. All right. So I'll leave some copies of this around for you guys and let you see that. This was my idea. I learned enough about the law and the justice that happened to people like Gold Mack and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and other people that I helped. In 3 years' time, I turned that education into a useful tool. But it didn't happen by sitting at home and throwing the remote. It happened because I got active and got involved. And that's why we are where we are today, making this kind of action happen. How many attorneys do you think have the canonies to go file this thing? I filed.
Probably less than a handful.
Why? Because they'll get disbarred. They'll get sanctioned. That's what they do to conservative attorneys now. We've seen it. So guess what? And I'm doing this. Why are we sitting out and helping Trump? Why are we? Because it aids independence. Isn't this our country? And they're trying to want to have a chance to vote.
You're not done yet. Took like all 1,400 plus defendants. President Trump are defendants because Nancy Pelosi's committee that the staff director David Buckley created the evidence to then criminalize everybody and then distribute that evidence to DCs, to Jack Smith, to Fani Willis, to Alvin Bragg indirectly, to prosecute the electors in Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, and maybe it might turn out Pennsylvania as well. Why? Because those are the people that already know and are fighting to expose the illegal 2020 election. That's why everybody showed up on January 6th. This is all an entire op, and it's all interconnected.
I got news for you. That list he just came, I'm coming for you, and so is the rest of America. We're tired of your crap. We're tired of this. The lawfare and the excuses and the attacks. I don't care what you do to me. I'm past that point. You already put my 13-year-old son in gunpoint. You got trigger-happy people ginned up, calling me a domestic terrorist and telling them that we beat people to death on January 6th with a fire extinguisher. And then laid poor Brian Sicknick in the state. Made it look patsy of your ridiculous movement and ideology to impeach Trump. And who are some of those people? Let's see, the Norm Isaac, people that work with Crew, and organizations, the Open Society organizations. You mean to tell me that Pelosi and all those people didn't know that Brian Sicknick was never bludgeoned with a fire extinguisher? That there was no physical indication of any damage? But yet we have the same coroner that told me the results of George Floyd was there for you, Brian Sicknick? The hell did you get from over here to over here, states away, making decisions about this in Roseanne Portland? What's wrong with that picture? But guess what? When Michael Sherwood promised you shock and awe, people that came before, when they brought Dan Tawno over from Michigan, just before January 6th, after the little Fed insurrection operation that they ran on the Michigan militia, the Herschel, and what they did in the government. All of these players, it just can't be. It's just an awful big coincidence. We see your conspiracy. We know what you've done. We know the lies, and I'm telling you where this is going. And you're getting a preview into where it's coming from. It's coming from the heart of America. It's coming from the pissed off patriot. It's coming from the mother and the wife and the people that are hurting. It's coming from the people that give up my kid at gunpoint. We're coming for you. We're coming for you in the courts. We're going to come for you legally. I want to make sure you get justice in the same fair courts we got it in. I want to make sure that good men and women, Christians in this country, get to sit and preside as jurors over these trials. That's in judges. That's where we need to be as America. And we will hold people in. You set a bar now. You said that this is what could be done in New York. So the Supreme Court either answers this and stops Trump's deal, or you're going to have to stop my action in Texas when we're in Throckmorton, Texas. And you want to talk about, they like to think we're all hillbillies, we're redneck tow truck drivers, and all we want to do is kill them. That's absurd. I have never seen a more peaceful group of people that advocate for peaceful action, legal peaceful action and solution. We have that ability. Don't push it too far.
Okay, now, excellent. Thanks, Chris. What else can we do? That's the legal aspect that you can take on yourselves. If you want advice, I'm going to throw him under the bus. He's going to give you his contact information to be able to advise and guide you through on how to go through the pro se route.
I'm actually, I will also. So I'll just forward it right on.
I was just going to, you beat me to it. But I also will provide you my information so that we can come up with strategies on how to push back. The other component, which a lot of people don't realize, just like what they did to us, and I'm going to remind folks, what did they do to us? Well, let me give some examples. Do you remember when there was an older gentleman in Florida, in Ron DeSantis' state, that was live streamed, swatted, raided, armed robbery, burglary victim, and a victim of, anybody remember that? Roger Stone was a victim of all that at the hands of America's #1 domestic terrorist organization, FBI. Okay? Number two, who else was kidnapped? Peter Navarro was kidnapped at an airport. Who was the victim of armed robbery in a Hardee's parking lot?
Mike Lindell.
Exactly, Mike Lindell. Scott Perry, at the time, the House Freedom Caucus chairman. What's the common thread with all of this? January 6th, right? FBI. Who's behind it? I already named the names. Let me say them again. David Buckley, the Benny Thompsons, the Liz Cheneys of the world, right? Jamie Raskin, people. So, there's a lot of people. I got a deep fake target list. I get it. People are like, well, what about that person? Yes. Every single question you ask is going to be a yes. They need a yes. We've got to start small. So how does that work? Who saw the video that went completely, I guess, nuts and viral of me, I guess, educating Zoe Chase?
Yeah. Yes.
An individual that put together that video, exchanged that and put their names. When you know exactly the enemy by name, date, place, transgression, takes a level, and you know where they live, you know where they go to school, or, let's say everything that these domestic terrorists are doing to then conduct the precursor activity before they conduct a live raid at his home, her home. What is that precursor activity? That's called doing a little investigative work. That's what we're involved in. So as we then take that investigative work, like I said at the beginning, with or without a White House, with or without a Congress, with or without a judiciary at the federal level, we are going to guarantee consequences, also known as accountability, also known as retribution. How do that? Well, we have this thing called the Constitution. The federal government exists at the mercy of the state legislatures, at the mercy of the states, at the mercy of the law enforcement of the states. AGs, Ken Paxton, if you're listening in, listen closely. Let's see, Chris Kobach in Kansas, if you're listening in, listen closely. Name the county sheriff, Darleaf up the street in Michigan here, or in Clackamas County in Washington is another good one. Multiply that by every single red county in the country. There's probably over 2,500 counties where there's a, quote, red sheriff. And if they're not red enough, then you might want to remove and replace them with somebody that is willing, ready, and able to do exactly what Alvin Bragg in the DA's office is doing, and that sheriff needs to work with that DA in the red counties. So that's what they just did. Bonnie Willis.
Well, what they did is a civil conspiracy in a RICO that Ivan and I have been talking about, so I don't know how much of that is. You want to go on that?
Touch on it real quick. Touch on it.
So I don't know how many of you are familiar with civil conspiracy, civil RICO. So
Yeah, go ahead.
We've been putting together a list. Ivan has a list. I have a list. There's other people have been working on this list. We have a flow chart. We know who talked to who. We have communication dates, times. We have communications themselves. And not only that,
Reverse. FISA works both ways.
yeah, this is a beautiful
You spy on us. The technical capability is there for that data to be had by others.
Well, it's amazing what happens when people start squirming when you talk about this and you watch communications and where they go. So it's called a trap. They've already been in. So a lot of them had their hand right back in the cookie jar covering their tracks. You get into open society organizations. George Soros founded organizations. I know Georgie Boy gets a lot of attention, right? So if you were an attorney working society organization like Crew or some of these others, maybe just for examples, and you were working for them and you communicated with certain people about what you knew was illegal activity or what they knew was illegal activity, crimes ongoing or future crimes, you only have ACP or attorney-client privilege, right, when you're talking about a crime you may have committed. You don't have privilege for crimes you're going to commit or in the midst of committing. So what's wrong with that? So what happens when we get to have the legal communications between these individuals that represented those organizations that then serve to do impeachments, that then serve to take on roles of bureaucracies, and then serve in government? Well, it's interesting that none of that's protected. None of it's privileged, and we get to see it all. Civil rules of discovery are going to be a hell of a ride for us. Stay tuned for what's coming next.
And to finally close, this is the big one. And I know most of you here have heard it. The person, the one individual in the entire planet that has the most evidence to prove to what you talked about, the jury pool. To the jury pool that you are helping us to get to. The 30 people that are here or so, on your live streams, on your recordings, as you push this out. The one person sitting on the biggest trove of evidence to release to the whole world of this seditious conspiracy dating back to 2016, the targeting of General Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, President Trump, the entire apparatus was involved in that organization. All of that. The county that you live in, name the county that you live in, so that you can present that to your DA, sheriff, AG. is a guy by the name of
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. So if you're listening in, Matt Taibbi and and Michael Schellenberger, FBI, the CIA. At this point in time, you need to match the deep state target list, mine, yours, see who has a Twitter account, take their entire direct message content, the GPS location, geotags data of those communications, and then let's line it up with the sheriffs that are clamoring, with the DAs that are clamoring, with the constituents that are clamoring that will be the jury pool to then present that at either a civil action or a criminal action to then hold these people to maximum account. And at the state level, some states have something called capital punishment. It would be so glorious for punishment to go from the O spelling to the A spelling in Kansas, in Florida. The list goes on as we start the Restream.
I think what I've been
Questions?
I gotta go one more. What I've been saying, you took $1,500, right? And now you took one more. Trump, and also, I think that was one too many for a lot of people, right? So what we're saying is, when you did that with a handful of counties and a few federal districts, what do you think's happening when we exercise thousands of counties, DAs, and hold accountable those people? Start that process. How many guys? Questions for me or Sarah or Ivan. And
So you mentioned holding something at Broadport in Texas, which I find very interesting because isn't that a case reference in 1878? Fraud vitiates everything.
oh, that's interesting.
So on
Yeah, knows her history. Well, and it's not fair. You're a pretty good study of the law. I didn't know that was going to make sense to you.
I thought of that as soon as he said that.
So on that vein, two questions. One, have you all done your homework on the sheriffs that you believe will be standing with the people to make arrests based on the evidence that hopefully says that Elon Musk officials today?
Well, and
Sure.
Yeah, there we go. The plug. We're gonna get my
Fool around and find out.
You know, and I know. So, so here we go. Here's what I'm gonna give you this last part. I'm gonna tell you right now. So by using the law and what we're doing and these efforts, I urge my people out there that say, I hear the saber rattling, I hear the frustration. Listen, folks, this is not as bad as you think it is. It's bad, but we're not in a free fall. We have started to come back up through this process because we figured out how to fight back. So for the saber rattling crowd out there and those guys, we have a lot of constitutional runway left, okay?
100%.
And then look, as tough as there's a lot of men out there, a lot of veterans, a lot of people that would, if we came to it, would do things to stand up and save the country from an absolute dire situation. We're not there yet. We're in a dire situation where we must vote. We're in a dire situation.
But we're not stopping you from preparing for that.
But yeah, no. Yeah, no. I'm just saying you may be prepared for anything. I would always prepare for the worst case scenario. I'm back in the run with that umbrella the same sunny day. Yeah, but more importantly, I like to remind people out there, guys like me and I, by using the law, are protecting you from the wrath of the Sarah Maccabees. I'm going to tell you, I've been around these people, and I've heard the passion. That's a wrap. You better hope that I get you in the courts. Yeah, motivation.
Sarah and what's going on with Mickey Whithoff and all the other Jason's families, it continues to motivate me. I'm embarrassed watching the movie, right? Or just watching what's going on. I'm embarrassed that I am allowing this to happen. And so I have to step out of my comfort zone of being retired to basically get in the fight and say, you know what? This is unacceptable. It is absolutely unacceptable. Just like I said in the movie with General Flynn, when it's unacceptable to me, you weaponize me against you. That's exactly the same thing that they did now against you, and now you're about to foul. And if you want to find out exactly what I think they plan on doing from now through November into January 2025, and what the strategy needs to be to counter that, at 2:30, I'll be saying that page. And if you guys have any more questions, you can stick around for a couple more minutes.
Sorry, can you give an update on your husband? I got here a little bit late. How are him?
He's okay, one day at a time for sure. He's serving his time in Minnesota. We're from Tennessee. There's supposed to be a 500-mile rule. He's 800 miles away from home. He was sentenced in February to 70 months. He was found guilty of all charges back in October.
Is there going to be a appeal?
Yeah, we're going through the appeals process, but unfortunately that's a much longer process than what we had to endure of 26 months pre-trial. So he will serve the rest of his time should nothing happen. He'll get out on August
26.
Until Trump gets in office, it'll be a much sooner. Praying for you.
Last one. Last question. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.